Welcome to the Daily Dose of Derm podcast, your go-to podcast for all things dermatology. I'm Dr. Mohiba Tareen, a board-certified dermatologist and the founder of Tareen Dermatology. Join us as we dive into the fascinating world of skincare, beauty, dermatologic treatment, and how to enter the world of derm. Whether you're a skincare enthusiast or an aspiring medical professional, this podcast is your daily dose of knowledge and inspiration. Get ready to uncover the secrets to healthy skin and discover how to make a meaningful impact in the field.
Welcome back to the Daily Dose of Derm. My name is Natalie Bohr, and I'm filling in today for Shihab Adam, our beloved host. Today, I have the pleasure of having Mindy Silvernail, our Director of Aesthetics here at Tareen Dermatology, on the podcast. Welcome, Mindy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Today's topic is all about the evolution of aesthetics. And Mindy came to Tareen Dermatology with so many years of experience from a different area that involved aesthetics. Her experience has been nothing short of amazing coming to Tareen Dermatology. So we're so happy to have you here. Let's start off by just talking about what brought you to the world of aesthetics or cosmetics in general.
I kind of just happened into it. I've always loved aesthetics. Never thought that it would be something I would be able to get into. I came from a small town in northern Minnesota, and rural area, aesthetics, cosmetics isn't really a big thing. Went back to school after being stay-at-home daycare while my kids were growing up for 11 years.
Amazing.
And I took a position as a clinic administrator for an ENT facial plastic surgeon, and he had a med spa as well.
Okay.
And boy, did I fall in love with aesthetics. And that's what led me to Tareen after 11 years in that role. I was done with the medical insurance, and I wanted to have some fun in the aesthetic world and solely focus on that.
And boy, is it fun.
It is fun.
I mean, we will get into it, but there are so many trends and really, truly, this evolution of cosmetics and aesthetics has changed so much. Mindy, and I know that, sometimes, and you've witnessed this in people that you've seen be treated, the positive effects it can have on somebody in their life. I mean, it's really not just a treatment. For many patients, it is so much more than that. And we'll get a little bit serious here, but I know that for you, you've shared with me kind of your background and personal story. Tell people listening how cosmetic treatments in general have helped you from both the inside out and the outside in.
Outside in. Well, I think, we all go through our own trials and tribulations in life, and sometimes it can do a toll on your body. Stress, such as divorce, sickness, illness, caring for loved ones who are sick, and we carry that in appearance as well. I carry my stress by losing a lot of weight. And so where do we as women a lot of times lose weight? In our temples, in our facial structures. And so for me, being able to have some HA dermal fillers really built my self-confidence back up to be able to put my best self forward and do a good job and feel good about myself.
Yep. Well, and I think when we had initially talked about this, some of the stressors that were going on in your life, you instantly felt this lift, right?
Instant.
A, it was a physical lift, but B, really, as you mentioned, it just made you feel more rejuvenated. And I think we see that here with a lot of our patients coming in, not necessarily with stress, but just little tweaks, or I like to call them tweakments.
I love that, tweakments. We're all our own worst critic. Mm-hmm. And we see ourselves much different than others see ourselves. And so when we can address things that make us feel better about ourselves, we carry our best self forward in all aspects of our lives.
Could not agree more. And even thinking just about the temples, like I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that they can get filler in their temple, or some type, try to do facial optimization in the chin or other areas.
Cheeks.
Let's talk a little bit about how aesthetics has changed over time. We're not that far apart in age, but we both have been through sort of the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. What have you noticed in terms of this evolutionary change in aesthetics or cosmetic treatments?
Oh my gosh. So you think back, and our grandparents, it was something only Hollywood did. And it was a little taboo, and nobody talked about it. And if you did it, don't tell anybody. Now we look at I mean, all my girlfriends are talking about, I need my Botox. Have you gotten it? Have you gotten your Dysport yet? Have you gotten your filler? Oh, my cheeks, I need my hydrofacial. And we just talk about it now. We share what we're doing, how we're making our skin look so great. And I think it's just more accepted now.
I agree. I think that, there's always these pros and cons of social media. On the one hand, you have TikTokers kind of going against dermal filler in certain ways that it used to be used, right? Big, big, big lips, big, big, big cheeks, big everything. And on the other hand, you have this whole education piece of TikTok, Instagram, social media, moms, friends, all talking about the topic.
Right.
So I totally agree that it's become more mainstream. People are not embarrassed to say that they're doing it.
And making sure that we're getting the right information out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's so
important. Yeah, read your sources. That's so true. Now, I think you've mentioned to me this in the cosmetic division of Tureen Dermatology that you run. Patients come to see us because the trend has changed. The volume that people are looking for is different. Do you feel that there's a shift in natural looking versus not natural looking? What's your pulse on that?
I think in the 2000s, we saw Hollywood with the big fake lips, the overfilled cheeks, just over the top. You could tell somebody had had plastic surgery when they had plastic surgery. You could tell when somebody had syringes of filler. And now we've seen this shift. We've seen a shift towards more natural, restorative, and regenerative. So people just want to look like they have healthy, glowing skin and a little plumpness. None of us want our wrinkles to show. We don't want that aging process to be known and seen, right? We want to slow that down. We can never stop it, but we can slow it down.
Right.
And so we're just doing things to just maximize our true self, right?
Yep.
We're not wanting to look like somebody that we're not.
You hit the nail on the head. And the reason being is because I was just reading, not recently, but I think in March, Vogue magazine came out with this article about facial optimization and sort of the end to overfilling, right? I think there's nothing cooler than if somebody, like I've had filler in my lips. I haven't had it in my cheeks or anything, but one of my girlfriends said, "Hey Nat, like you're looking so great. What are you doing?" And I think because I like that they don't know, but I also love the fact that somebody thinks I look great. I mean, who doesn't like that? And so that, I think that's a lot of the goal, don't you think, behind what people are going for is let me do some things that make me feel good, that I enjoy. And then if the benefit is that other people are like, look at her, she looks awesome. What is she doing?
Right. And now people will at least ask you before they wouldn't dare. And
that's so true.
And people are now more willing to share, right?
That's so true.
I think healthy skin is in.
Yep.
Right. So when we have healthy skin, our dermal fillers, our neurotoxins, they can do their job even better. So I always say, protect your investment. If you're going to spend the money on dermal fillers, why aren't you in our Diamond Club every month?
Yeah,
treating yourself, having little maintenance. My mom calls it tune-up days. As we age, just like our cars age, we need tune-up days. One Friday I need my nails done. The next Friday I need my neurotox. The next I need my roots done.
Yep.
I need my
tune-up
filler.
Days.
Take care of yourself. Protect your investment. Your skin is a very large organ in our system. Wear your sunscreen. Use medical grade products.
Yep.
Just really take care of that.
Speaking of, I think that, with this discussion of the evolution of aesthetics, products have changed.
Very much so.
What is your thought on how things like injectables, other services like lasers and things that are now available, how has this all changed since you started in this field?
The technology has come so far. We can now do these laser treatments with so much less downtime and still getting significant results.
Yeah.
I always say rule of thumb is let's have a laser once a year to just pull that pigment out. Yep. Let's do a resurfacing laser once a year, especially if you're over 40, women, men too, because the damage is there. And I grew up in the era of no sunscreen. And so the damage is done. And now I protect, but I don't want skin cancer. I want to do everything I can to minimize that risk.
Yes.
And so preventatively, in January, I do a CO2 laser. I like to do once a year that pigment, get rid of my brown spots that are hiding under the surface. I think we all just need to add that in our regimen.
I agree.
Because it's not as much downtime anymore.
1,000%
The technology
agree.
with products is so much greater. I mean, we don't have to use hydroquinone to lighten our skin.
That's awesome.
We've got a lot of great Terrain dermatology products here.
That is also true. And medical grade, because
Yes.
there is quite a difference, right, in the potency and the effectiveness. And it doesn't always mean that someone needs to have a $600 a month regimen. That's not really what we ever recommend from a skincare line. You can get, at least in our boat here, really reasonably priced medical grade skincare.
And you don't need 10 things.
No.
Stick to the basics. I always say ACE. Start with ACE.
What is ACE?
Vitamin A,
Okay.
Vitamin C, Vitamin E,
Love
and
it.
your sunscreen.
Yep.
And then you can
ACE.
add your moisturizers and things like
I
that.
need to tell my husband, Casey, about ACE,
Yeah,
right? Getting
start
him
there.
involved with that.
Yes.
That's a good baseline
Yes.
starting point. That's so interesting. I find it really encouraging that people are talking about skincare and what they're doing versus hiding it.
Right.
B, there's so much more education and access to education, social media, advertising, all that stuff is sort of in your face. But I think that moreover, like you alluded to earlier, this idea of wellness now includes skincare. I mean, we have people that are coming to us with their kids that are like 15, 16, interested in skincare regimens. Some of them take it too far.
Right. Well, and
But-
we see these teenage kids with acne.
Yes.
And they're bullied. And we can help them not just with
I know.
medications like Accutane. There's a whole slew of treatments that we can do in conjunction
Yes.
with our dermatologists here. And it really changes, especially those teenagers' lives.
Well, and let's talk about expertise. We've talked about all the fun things, the challenges over the time and trends and evolution here, but expertise comes into play and is so key. Tell people listening why this is so important.
You need to go and trust someone with your skin that has the experience of, they've got the education, the experience, because they're going to give you the tools you need to succeed in taking care of your skin. You don't want to go to someone who's not educated, especially if you're getting fillers and toxins. It can really mess you up. I mean, we've got a lot of blood vessels in our face that
Sure
are
do.
hiding, and we're not all the same. Just because the map says we have a blood vessel here that comes out, someone's might be up a millimeter, and when we're injecting, bad
Makes
things
difference.
can happen.
Yep, that's so
you
true.
need to go to somebody who's highly skilled,
Yeah.
had extra training, and always ask them to credential themselves.
You
The
make
more
a great
questions
point.
you ask, the better.
Yep.
Nobody should be offended by you asking them questions.
We're really lucky here because, Dr. Terrain, obviously she's our owner and founder, but she's also the #1 cosmetic injector
Yes.
in the entire North Central region. So there's a reason for that, right? So there is something to be said about seeing someone you trust, like you said, and people who've done this long enough to know how to manage if there is
They've
an
got
issue.
the tools in their toolbox.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
That is the big takeaway is credential your injector.
Yes.
Yep.
Do your homework. Don't go for the Groupon.
Yes. What do you think, Mindy, are the most sought after treatments to do today, whether it's just cosmetic services or injectables?
So sought after, I would say, as far as aesthetic, esthetician services, we're seeing people wanting that, regenerative. I would say PRP. And we're seeing a lot
Tell
of
people what PRP is if they don't know.
platelet-rich plasma,
Okay.
if you don't know. So we're taking our own plasma and using it to stimulate collagen and regrowth. And, people want that. We're not going to reject that, right?
Right.
We're not going to have an adverse reaction to our own PRP. My favorite service, probably for the last 2 years, has been microneedling with PRP.
I love microneedling.
It's the best bang for your buck. So I think we're seeing people who are really steering towards that regenerative, and then we've really just seen growth in that hair restoration.
Yes.
It's not just men. Women, we go through perimenopause, menopause, all of that stress. We've seen, after having a baby, we lose our hair, and let me tell you, it's scary.
I had a huge chunk out of my hair
coming out.
And hair coming out in clumps after my boys. And Carolase and PRP, they're a lifesaver. Someone could say, well, that seems like, low on the totem pole for a problem to have. However, it really did affect my confidence.
And it affects your emotional well-being.
Yes. So, there was nothing worse for me than, I was so tired and I was loving my babies, but then my hair was falling out. And I'm going, well, what the heck is this?
Am I going to wake up in the morning?
Am I bald? I know. But I think it was comforting knowing that there were treatment solutions available to help curb that and then help with that process of regrowing the hair.
And it's affordable.
Yes.
And it's come a long way from just the hair plugs and transplants.
Yes.
Of, the 70s, 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a trend, right? We're looking at minimal downtime, using our own body.
It's really become feasible and become less intimidating for patients, I think, which is awesome. One thing that we haven't touched on yet is managing expectations.
That's a hard one.
It can be a hard one.
It can be.
But how are we doing that? I mean, what's your
We need
take
to
on that?
educate people on realistic expectations of a treatment that they're choosing, and setting up a full treatment plan and giving them good, better, best decisions, and letting them decide what fits in their downtime, their pocketbooks, and then setting a plan to set them up for success. Photoing and working with our clients to show them their before and afters, because we look in the mirror every day at ourselves and we don't always see our transformation until somebody comes up to you and is like, what are you doing? You're glowing. And I'm like, oh, I had skin beef.
Skin beef. Skin beef is sort of, when we think about trends, like this is a new product that's changing. Let's just tell people about skin beef because it's really interesting, right?
It's not a filler.
It's not a filler. It is an injection.
It's a sub-Q injection.
And what's it made of? Hyaluronic acid?
It's hyaluronic acid.
Yeah.
And it's injected in little kind of aliquots.
Yeah.
Is how it's on label injected. And once you have it, we're in Minnesota, so especially in the winter, my skin's dry all the time, but in the winter it's horrible. And so just getting that little boost of moisture in my skin about 3 weeks after I have it, I'm like, whoa, I'm glowing. And so it's just a great add-on.
I think so too. I think that you hit the nail on the head talking about education. We really try to do that. I know we do. Not every place does that, but I think the more educated the patient, the better they understand what their outcomes are going to be.
Correct.
That they understand if there's any risk, that they make sure that they're a good candidate. All of those things come into play. I think any good cosmetic esthetician, wouldn't you agree, is going to give you a well-rounded look at the future of if you do A, B, or C, you will get blank.
They're going to set those expectations. And here at Tureen, we never want a client to do anything that they're not 100% comfortable in doing. We're here when you're ready.
Yep.
Like, we can baby step in, we can jump right in. It's up to the client.
Yep. You are so smart, Mindy. I am so glad that you're here with us.
Thank you.
What is your favorite aesthetic treatment? Like, let's just say, I know you don't have just one. Top three.
Top three. I have my neurotoxin every quarter, and if
Botox or Dysport? I'm
a Dysport girl.
Love it.
And if I ever retire, do not work in the aesthetics, I said I will never give up my neurotoxin ever.
Okay. I'm with you. I think that's my number one too.
It's my number one.
Yeah.
My kids say I can't make an angry face, so they never know if I'm mad unless it's the tone of my voice.
I feel like that's sort of misleading for the kids, but hey,
they need to get used to that one.
So true. Okay, number 2.
Number 2, microneedling with PRP.
Okay.
And number 3, my dermal fillers, because I'm hitting that age where.
How old are you?
I'm 45.
Look at her. Whoever's watching the podcast, look at her. She is beautiful.
Thank you. The aging process, I think, especially after 40, you start to notice it a little bit more. My skin's definitely drier. The fat pads are moving.
You see it. You see the change.
You see it. You feel it.
Yep.
You don't love to see it and feel it. So dermal fillers have been my friend.
Yes. And don't you feel like your friends who are around the same age, and I'm approaching that, right? I'm starting to notice things that are, falling with gravity, and, the fat that you do like in your cheeks starting to dissipate a bit. Everybody says the same thing. Oh, I wish I could do something for my under eyes, or gosh, I really feel like I wish that I could better define my cheekbones or better define my jawline. And I think when they discover that there are some minimally to not invasive options that are affordable, they go,
why haven't I been doing this?
Where have I been this whole time?
And I think it's our job to educate people, to share with them. I mean, I will always tell people the procedures I've done. And,
me too.
And people look at me like, oh, well, you don't look fake.
No, or you don't look distorted.
You don't look distorted. Our job, and a good provider's job, is to just enhance your natural beauty. Yep.
There's this whole talk about facial optimization.
Yes.
And I think I mentioned earlier, and I'm assuming that you agree with this, is that like injecting places like the chin or the temples is minimal.
It's minimal.
But it can balance how the nose and the chin look together and the overall natural look of the facial structure.
Right. We always want that balance.
Yep.
The third on our face.
Yep. Let's go back to a bit about your background in the aesthetic world and all of your experience. I mean, ENT and facial plastics is obviously a different category than derm.
Yes.
But what are some of the lessons you've learned over the last, how many years working? Over 20.
Over 20.
Well over 20.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I was at my previous practice for 11 years. Yep. And so learning all the different technologies, products, procedures that are available and the science behind them, it's fascinating.
Yep. And the importance of probably knowing that if there's science behind it, we try to test all of our technologies first. I mean, you do this with staff to make sure that they're tried and true before we use them on a client or patient.
And you want to be cutting edge, but not so cutting edge.
Yeah.
Because I always want to know, what is the longevity of that technology?
So smart.
Mm-hmm. And when we bring something new on, I always ask, what is it replacing? What is its place? What is the cost to the patient? Yeah. And the bang for your buck? Like, what is the patient getting for that? And then we decide, do we bring that on?
Yes.
Is there a place for it?
Well, and we want to make sure that, right, we're providing options for all skin types, right?
Absolutely.
Because not all these technologies are great for all skin types. And so I feel like you've done an amazing job of making sure, working with Dr. Tureen, that we have treatment options like skin pen, for example.
For all skin types.
For all skin types.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I feel like I could learn more and more from you every day that we work together. With your ample amount of experience, what you bring to the table here at our office. Also, for anybody listening, Mindy has the cutest Minnesota accent, and I'm so glad that you've been able to listen to her and hear her smart perception of this amazing industry and all that it has to offer for our patients and for people around the world. Any last bits of information for people that you want them to know about you or this aesthetic world?
Do as little as you can, as often as you can.
Okay.
And take time for yourself. Thanks for having me.
I love that. Thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to the Daily Dose of Derm. Stay curious and stay inspired. Feel free to follow us, share, and rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.